This is the inside of the Mobilvetta Kea P65. If we firstly come to the main control panel, we can turn the 12 volt on by touching the corner of the screen. Once we've done this, we can turn the warning light on and off, turn all of the interior lights on and off. These can all then be individually turned on and off on their own switches. We have water pump on and off just here. We need the water pump on to be able to get water out of the taps and fill the boiler if it's been drained. To flush the toilet, you do need to make sure that the auxiliary is on. All other information is then given via scrolling on these arrows just here. So at the moment you'll see it's displaying an inside temperature, the date, the outside temperature. We then have time, and then we have a little picture of a 2-pin plug letting us know that we're currently connected to the main supply, and then a voltage of the battery. If I now scroll, it will give us a condition of the vehicle battery, condition of the leisure battery. You can see they're both saying 14.3 volts at the moment because we're hooked up to the main supply and they're under charge. We then have how much water is in the fresh tank and then how much water is in the waste tank. If I now press the little spanner, we can then go into the settings menu. So we scroll up and down, and then we use the enter to change anything. So if we want to change the date, etc., and the time, we just hit enter, change, enter, change, and again we then just literally pick the correct date. We can also set a wake up alarm. We can have tank alarms on or off. We can have battery alarms on or off. Key beeps on or off. And then what the control panel actually is. If we now move across to the other control panel, this is the Truma control panel for the heating and the hot water system. So if I now turn it on by pressing the button in, you'll see a series of icons, and as I begin to rotate they will flash. If we start with the first icon just here, this is for the heating. So if I now click on it, heating is off. All we now do is just rotate and pick whatever temperature we would like it to be inside the motorhome, and it will go right the way up to 30 degrees. So once you've decided on temperature, click to store it in. And you'll now see a little flame has appeared above. That little flame there just represents the heating system, and it's just letting you know that you've set a parameter. Whenever the heating is in operation, the flame will steadily flash, and it will continue to flash until it achieves the temperature you have asked it. If I now move along to the next icon, this one is for your hot water. Again, if I now click, hot water is off. And if I begin to rotate, we can heat hot water in eco mode, which will give us a temperature of about 40 degrees. We can heat in hot, which will give us a temperature of about 60 degrees. We can also perform a boost on the boiler. This is extremely handy, especially if there's going to be more than one of you having a shower in quick succession of each other, or if you just want hot water extremely fast. If you do perform the boost and the heating is running, it will turn the heating off as it needs to use that extra power. Again, the icon will continue to flash until the temperature has been achieved. Next, we have power source. So at the moment I'm using mains electricity at 2 kilowatts to heat the hot water and heat the motorhome itself. If I now rotate, I can lower the power consumption to 1 kilowatt on main supply. This is extremely handy, especially if you're on a low amp site. We can run it on dual fuel, so we can run it on a mixture of gas and mains at 2 kilowatt. Again, this setting is extremely handy in the winter months. If you want to get up to temperature nice and quickly, we'll basically only use the gas as it's required. And then we have a mixture of gas and mains at 1 kilowatt if we're on a lower amp site. And then lastly, if we have no main supply at all, we can solely run on gas. If we now move to the next icon, this is the circulation fan for the heating system. So we can either run in eco, high. If I turn the heating off, we can also use it to vent the motorhome as well. If we now drop to the lower icon, this one here is for a basic timer, so we can set a start time and then an end time, and then we decide what we would like on within that time period. And then lastly, timer on or off. If I now activate the timer, it will come up there, and now within that time period those settings will apply. If I now turn it back off again, when we return to it, we can then alter it again. After timer, we then just have clock set. And then lastly, next to the little symbol letting us know that we're hooked up to main supply, we have the settings menu. So we have offset, which is just for the thermostat. So the thermostat is located just here. If you don't think it's quite correct, you can just slightly adjust it. We then have temperature, just if you prefer it displayed in Celsius or Fahrenheit. Brightness of this screen, 12 or 24 hour clock. Language. Index, which is for the technicians in the workshop, it just lets them know what software it's running. And then lastly, full factory reset. From time to time, these particular control panels can throw up error codes. They are usually something relatively basic. So at the moment, we're basically running on main supply. So if I went outside, pulled the mains lead out, or I flicked the trip switch up, etc., it would then flash up as an error, letting us know that it's lost main supply. Same would happen if we're trying to run it on gas and the bottle wasn't turned on or it was depleted. An error code will appear as a warning triangle where my finger is, just here, and then if you click on it, it will display a series of numbers and letters. If you then look in the manual or you Google it, it will then tell you what the problem is. 9 times out of 10, as long as you rectify the problem, the error code will just then automatically go out. If this is not the case, if you've still got stuff running, turn it off, because the control panel can reassess a lot faster when it's not trying to do lots of things at once. If that still doesn't solve the issue, turn the control panel off, turn it back on again. Just literally hold the button in until it says off, wait until off disappears on the screen, and then turn it back on. And if that doesn't work, I always then say do the factory reset. Sometimes they just need to be reset and then they will be fine. If we now move down to the seat just here and we remove the cushions, you can see the location of the leisure battery. You will see that there is space in here for a second if required. And then also we have the location of the 12 volt fuses, and they're all labelled up. And then we also have the location just here of the trip switches as well. So if something's not working on main supply, just check to see whether or not you've tripped. We also have a full isolation point for the leisure battery as well. The battery charger is just tucked here, so this is what's charging the batteries from the main supply. Just here we have the solar panel regulator. We do not need to do anything with this, it will just smart charge the batteries as required. Tucked down here, if I just move this chair slightly out of the way, see if I can get it in shot, there it is. This is for your underfloor heating. If we now replace the cushions and we now come across to the dinette and the travelling seats, the table slides and rotates by popping your foot on the little black pressure point just there, then the table will slide and rotate. Again, if I now just remove the cushions, we can now remove the cover, and we have the fresh water tank just here. So the water pump just sits here, and then to gain access to the fresh water tank, we just unscrew here. This is how the tank is drained down for winterization, or if you don't want a lot of water in for travel. You'll see that we actually have two bungs in here. This one here is what you class as like a travel bung, so you pull it out and it will drain the tank down to a certain level, still enabling you to have some water in the tank. And then this one just here will fully drain the tank down. If you are going to have travel seats, you need to drop this section down just here. You'll see that you pull here and here at the same time, and then this section will then drop down. By the habitation door, we have tank heater for the waste tank, as it's an external tank. If you are using the motorhome in cold climate and there's a danger of frost, you can pop this on to avoid any frost damage occurring to the waste tank. The fresh tank does not have it, as we know, as it's an internal tank. We then have lights on and off underneath the drop down bed, and then we have the light bar on and off. If you hold it down, you can brighten it up and dim it down again. This light bar here will come on without the 12 volt being turned on, as it's classed as an entrance light, as is the blue LED strip and low lighting. Storage on the floor just here and here. TV bracket just here, just slide out on this part here and then attach to the back of the TV, and then it all plugs in just here. With the drop down bed, the controls are just here, isolated and then turned on, and then it's just press the buttons to drop. As soon as you let go, it will stop. And it will drop down to this point here, and then just attach the ladder to the two fixing points just here. These particular lights are touch. We then have the oven and the grill. So push in to the left for the oven. And then push in to the right for the grill. It is also equipped with a light. Beneath it we then have the Thetford fridge freezer, on and off just here. So if I now hold it in, off, and then hold it back in, on again. This is an automatic model, so as long as it is on automatic it will find the best power source it can for you. So if I just press this button here, I can put it on A for auto, and because we're hooked up to mains supply, it's automatically put us onto mains with a little picture of the 2-pin plug. If I now ran outside and pulled the mains lead out, it would then automatically attempt to fire itself up onto gas, and as soon as we start the engine of the motorhome, it will then automatically go over to 12 volt maintain to keep itself cold whilst on the move. We can take it out of auto, so I can manually put it onto mains. I can manually put it onto 12 volt maintain. We are going to get an error code at the moment as the engine isn't running. And I can manually put it onto gas and then back to auto again. Temperature control just here, and then this last button just here turns the unit's anti-condensation jacket on and off. So this is anti-condensation jacket off, anti-condensation jacket on. The jacket definitely needs to be on when you're using the motorhome in warmer climate. This stops any build-up of condensation behind the unit, which would then eventually run down the back of it and form a puddle underneath it. In the cooler months you can have it turned off. It does not hurt if you leave it on all of the time. We then have the freezer compartment just here, and the fridge just here. Both fridge and freezer come with little venting arms just here, so when you're not using the van you can just hook them and they will then hold the doors on a jar. Sink, bin, and we then have the hob. So we have the induction hob just here, and then we have the 2 gas rings, and that's just push in, twist and hold down to ignite. Cutlery drawer just here, and then just tucked here is the sink cover. Then we have just drawers going down. The extractor fan just sits underneath here. You'll also find light switches again and power. Storage rack just here. Toilet here, so the bowl does swivel so you can get it into a comfortable position. To open to the cassette, just come down to the grey lever just here and just slide it across. Push to flush. Again, do make sure the auxiliary button is on the control panel or it will not flush. Level indicator just here, so this will illuminate to let you know when the cassette needs emptying. Close back up again. If this has been left open and you try to remove the cassette from the outside, it will not come out. So if you do feel resistance, just make sure that nobody has left it open. We then have the basin. Storage beneath and above. Shower cubicle just here. Do make sure that this is across for travel to secure the door. We then have storage here. And here. These can also come up so you can gain access from above as well. Storage in the step. We then have the bed, ladder here for the drop down bed. If you want it as one big large double, you can slide across. You then have your ladder just here, and then you have the infill just here. USB connectivity just here, and main socket, and this just turns the blue LED lights on and off just here. TV aerial just here, so to raise the mast just loosen the collar off, and then you can then push it up and then twist it into the position that you require and then lock into place. Never over tighten these collars as they can split. At the moment the aerial is sitting in the horizontal position. It can be rotated to vertical if required for additional tuning. Just turn the tail here. Do make sure that the aerial is down for travel. The digital amplifier for the aerial is just located here, on and off just here. And then we have boost just here. If we move back through, if this electric bed was to malfunction, it can be manually wound up and down. If we come to the overhead locker just here, we can see the motor just here. We get the winding tool just here. This just pops in at this point here, and then we can wind it up and down.